Hello from Safonovo. This is a podcast Pigeon of Peace where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about separation, and let's start with the definition.
Each process has a start and the end. Sometimes it's time to meet someone, to make introduction, to make presentation, to start project. Then it's time to make it happen and it's finished, and you should leave from somewhere and maybe leave the country, leave the company, leave the project. And in this case, you should make the right separation. What will happen if you will just disappear without any notice? If after several months or years, it would be necessary to re-establish connection, you will make a call or write to offended person. And he or she will say, okay, Maxim, but you leave us without any explanation. Yes, okay, it was time to leave and we know that you will fly away. But anyway, it would be quite polite to talk a bit, to make, I don't know, something like a small talk, small drink and something like this.
Well, when we actually we're doing studies on the skill of risks, I will try to actually maybe look at it from a different point of view. You said that usually when you start something, actually prepare for it to be ended. That means you will need to think about separations. You will need to think about different scenarios of it. So how the preparation for separation should be happening?
I will explain in several cases. First, when I start my marriage, third marriage, I was talking with my wife without saying that we sometime will go to divorce. It would maybe not such a polite way and it would hurt her feelings. But anyway, in my head, I think every time it could happen. You have already one marriage on your back. I have two marriages on my back and now it's third. So I forced to think about that this as a project also could end it. It would be sad, and I do not want such a consequences, but it could be. The same, for example, I talk with my daughter, and she is now like 30 years old, and I always say to her, sometime it would happen that maybe your husband wouldn't like me, or maybe we will have some quarrel on some religious issue or some other stuff. And you should be prepared to separate. For example, I was not talking with my father for 10 years. I was eager to enter institute, but not immediately school as my father and all his predecessors.
Predecessors or ancestors.
Predecessors.
Longer.
Okay. All they're entering military school, but I don't want. And it take us 10 years until he understood that I was right. And computer science is going up, but military is going down. It was time when he was fed up and he has enough clothes and some else, but now computer guys live much better. The same, I talk with my mother and I'm saying, okay, mom, you should know that everything could happen. I'm flying a lot. I could be killed or I could be injured and I couldn't help. You should have your own accounts. You should have in your telephone book name of all doctors and everything you need, just in case, just in case.
Well, speaking of like who exactly or what exactly will be left with, if let's say separation already happened, whether it was smooth or not, I do believe there's also should be some sort of like a balance, like what you will be living with, or maybe what you will be living without, and for the other side. So when you're thinking about this, you might be actually getting less or maybe losing something during the separation, or vice versa. You might be get something the moment those parties, whether it's like a business, family, or your just friends will be split off. So how to think about making this gain, and again, maybe on top of that, whether you actually need to leave them with something or you will take everything with you.
You should be prepared to live like in a trip. You know, you should imagine that you have some belongings, but not of them could be transferred. You couldn't move sofa, you couldn't move sometime car, you couldn't move maybe some cupboard, but some small stuff you could pack in a suitcase or backpack and you should go on. For example, I have been working in Ukraine for 11 years and then suddenly I was moved, rotated to Moscow and I take just 10,000 US dollars and just two suitcases and nothing more. So just 20 kilos of my stuff, and I start this life from the new. And maybe you are even the better person to tell the story, because you have been living in Dubai, in Singapore, and several other cities. And when you're flying on such long distances, you should understand that maybe the best thing you could have, this is credit cards or debit cards, but not the I don't know, iron shorts and suits and watches. So this is a very strange situation. When I was working in Kiev, I have a really fancy flat. It was decorated by Versace lab, and there are a lot of different very expensive stuff like vases. It's okay to say vase where to put flowers?
Vases, yes.
A lot of expensive vases and golden pens and even some stuff with gems. But when I was going to Moscow, I was sitting and I was definitely deciding that I do not need this. So I would give everything to my wife, because she wouldn't move with me, and it was going to be like a divorce. And a lot of things, they were looking like useless. Okay, I have spent some times and I have some watches. Okay, I have some maybe golden chains and some other stuff, golden watches and so on. But when you moving to another country, it is nothing to you. If you will stay in 5-star hotel, you have everything what you want, and then you could go twice in nearest shop and buy everything you need. In this case, you should understand that all your belongings could be or anchor or balloon. First is going you down, and second is going to rise you up.
Well, I do agree. Sometimes I feel like all we need is just a passport, some sort of like a thing that would approve your ID, and then laptop or any gadget that allows you to, like use your skills. Everything else could be gained in whatever ways if you're not so lazy, I guess. And speaking about scenarios of the separation, sometimes you might be let go, whether it's like relationship, your girlfriend saying, okay, it's time to say goodbye, whether it's work, your boss would say, yes, now it's time to say goodbye, or business, your employees, your customers might be saying, well, the same thing. So you probably should be prepared for that, like for unexpected separation. So how planning or maybe making backups or maybe thinking even about this could actually prepare you mentally, physically, and I would say materialistically for such cases?
The most valuable word in your question is preparation and planned. When I was first time teaching students in my institute, everything was going smooth, as for me. But when I get another stream of newcomers, so I was teaching first stream for 2 years, and then I got Rockies. And I don't like them so much. They are so not educated, so ignorant, so everything I should start from the beginning. And it was not just heartbreaking, but also brain-breaking situation. And then I realized that if I will stay as a prof on the cathedra, I should rotate the students, and each 2 years I would get a new stream, and it's just usual. Second, I was working in investment fund Alpha Capital in Kiev, and sometime I would hire and fire people, and it also was strange to fire someone to hire another one for replacement. Third, I started something like School of Troubleshooters, but not like this, in light mode. And also after 2 or 3 years, people should leave me because I gave them all knowledge I wanted. So I decided, okay, I should enter in any kind of relations, personal, business, or educational, to have in mind that sometime we will separate. So it's just usual situation. Some parents ask me how to separate from the child. For example, girl always asking for money, and boy doesn't want to change the flat because he want that he will have all cooked and everything clothes clean up and ironed. And I was saying, you should create conditions and you should be prepared, and you should prepare another people, a person for this. For example, you're trying to make new relations, and you enter someone in your life, and you start sharing things. But for example, if you have just one notebook, and if you will have like a divorce, you should buy another one. For example, I gave to all my first and second wife flats, because if I will not do that, they have no place to live. And if you're strong and if you're initiator for the separation, you should do this.
Well, yeah, I do believe sometimes it's also important to take the responsibility of whether you break in or not. And speaking about cycles, what I kind of notice, even like changing countries, or even, you know, like changing places to work or changing faces around, it feels like sometimes first time you're doing it, it's like a bitter, it's really sad. But the moment it happens again and again, it's like your skin is getting like a thicker. So you're just thinking, okay, it's yet another sunrise, it's yet another sunset, so it will repeat. So whether this actually, you know, like, I think you call it like a soup. The moment, you know, like you make something, whether it's like a virtual, you get the soup and actually use it in your next relationships or maybe in the next endeavors. So how you should treat separation to see like whether there is a time to do a retrospective, learn something from it, and maybe move on. So whether this framework exists.
There are two ways how we could look to our life. First, we live once, and second, we live every day. If we live once, everything is terrible, and every separation, every divorce, and every breakup, it broke us, and we are like a broken arrow. But if we will make lessons after each call, after each conversation, after each meeting, we will understand that there is nothing to carry with ourselves. We have some knowledges, we have some gadgets, but you know, when you move from country to country, suddenly you realize that you do not need your gadget and even do not need your mobile phone, because you will change the number and some people would be lost forever. You know, like 4 years ago, I don't know how to say, maybe inventory. I was making inventory of my phone book, and I found that I have almost 73,000 people in it. And my phone is starting to make it very slowly to open it. And I was thinking, okay, I'm IT guy, I know what to do. And I ask my phone to show how many calls I have made for last 10 years. And suddenly I found that less than 2,000 people were in connection with me for 10 years. So I delete 71,000 people and put them in backup Outlook database. And I have right now like 2,700 people in my phone. And you know, if I will repeat this, I will found for 15 years, I will talk, I know, for 1.5 thousand. So people, knowledges, books, belongings, they are getting not just older, they became useless. You know, when I was young, I was trying to have as many suits as I have. It was a time when I was trying to have 120 suits and almost the same amount of shorts and almost the same amount of socks and ties. Now I have maybe 20 shorts. I have maybe 5 suits. Yes, I have a lot of shoes, but anyway. And you know, my wife is occupying our apartments, and he use the more space and more space. And I'm trying to be as less as possible. And you know, it's funny. When I was working in Japan, I met the guy, and he was adept of minimalism, and he was using just 33 things in his life, and he was trying to minimize it to 27. I have been to his flat. Yes, it's very small. He has a mattress. He have I don't know how to say, special ramka frame, special frame to put the phone. It was time when it was no AR harnitur. It's okay to say harnitur?
Earplugs or
Earplugs.
headset.
So he was just putting, instead of TV, he was putting his phone. He has just one bowl for the soup and for the tea. He has just 2 t-shirts, white one. He has just one pair of trousers, just 2 socks, and so on, and 2 chopsticks, and so on. By the way, 2 chopsticks is like 1 piece, but 33 things to use. So everything he could put just in one bag and fly all over he wants. And the same when I was on Bali, I meet some guys. There is a place, it named like Blue Point. There is a hotel where Kurnikova and some other very famous people get married. And I met several guys. They have their shorts, t-shirts, something to put on food, notebook, board, and wallet with $50. And they just were chasing down for the waves all around the area, and they were so free. They have just money to have a beer for the night, and then they should teach someone how to surf in order to get paid for sleep.
Well, I do believe sometimes materialistic things could not be real, and actually non-materialistic things could be real things in our life. And maybe this will be a slightly awkward question, but there is something that occurred to me, and I spent some time thinking about this. So our life probably might be looked as the cycles. So what I kind of noticed, the moment I end some sort of like a relationships or like a project or whatever, it never come back in no any other form. So if you make an attempt to speak to people, if you make an attempt together or whatever, so it feels like it's always part of the like last chapters, and usually people don't really show up. Then what I also was thinking, if you feel that there are people who will be reaching out, so probably they at certain level of mobility, so they're thinking not in terms of, okay, this ended, I will have to move on, but they think in like a long term. So they think of, okay, this cycle ended, there was a my time when I was doing my thing, but then, okay, it's time to move to the next level. Now we're back again, we're thinking like strategically, and then we start to move over. So whether this kind of thought or like ability to think exist, or again, like it's just like our imagination, usually when we separate it, it's usually more or less forever.
I will tell you an example of my deputy. He was a very old man. He was a pensioner. It's okay to say pensioner?
Pensioner or retired.
Retired. He was working for police in Ukraine, and he was my duty while I was head of economical security of commercial bank, Alpha Bank. And it was a time we were walking on the main street of the city, and suddenly he was hugged by another person, and it was severe person with some scars on the head. There is a hair, but you could see between the hair, it was like a very hard scars. And after small talk, we were continue to walk around and ask my colleague, Alex, could you please tell me who is this? This is a very dangerous person, as I think. I was like 24 and he was like 52 or something like this. And he told, I put him into the prison. And I asked, yes, but how you're not afraid to be killed? And he was answering me, this is like a game. I don't know how to translate it in English, but in Russian we say казаки-разбойники.
Well, I'd probably like police and robbers.
Okay, so this is like a game, police and robbers. And yes, I put him to the prison, but I was making my job with dignity. And then I was visiting him once a year with some small stuff like tea, like oranges, like socks, like my respect, and so on. Because yes, I was put above the bars.
Behind the bars, yes.
Behind, yes, correct. Behind the bars, maybe like 200 or 300 people. So they could kill me or my parents or my wife. So I forced to be very careful. But after I was taught by older one, I noticed that it really works. So sometime I would meet a person who was my enemy during the trial, but then we will become like old friends. So sometime good fight will be predecessor for a good friendship.
Well, true indeed. And then my last question will be how knowing about separation could help to make this world a better place.
Now I will make small manipulation. Maxim, we both know that our series of podcast would end someday. Now we have like almost end of the 600 issues, but someday, maybe 1 year from this point, maybe 2, we will finish it. But it is no one will disturb us to start a new chapter of our life. So each time have your door open that people which like you or love you could be back and say, "Hi, Maxim, we are back again."
Yeah, and as was said in one of the books, something ends and something begins. And we review the skill of separation and how it could be helpful for you. Stay in peace.